Hello and welcome. Today I'm here in my cutting patch and you join me as I'm about to plant out my biennials for the year. And I'm hoping they can make me some serious profit. Join me as I let you into the secret of what my most profitable stem is in the garden. When it comes to planting for profit, most people think about annuals or perennials as the biggest money makers. Biennials are often overlooked, and that's such a shame because they're incredibly lucrative, or that's certainly what I found. Today we're going to dive into the world of biennials and explore how you can plant them for serious profit. And if we've never met before, I'm Nicola from Bramble and Beyond. I am a home gardener, although trying to make a bit of money on the side from my gardening habit. And I want to grow flowers as efficiently, productively, and with the minimum amount of time as possible so that I can get the most bang for my buck. So if that's what you're looking for, then you're in the right place. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about biennials is that they are the poor relation to annuals, whether they're hardy or tender, or perennials. And that's because all you see in the summer months are flowers such as the wonderful dahlias, zinnias, snapdragons, all of that. For fresh flowers, they're absolutely wonderful. However, biennials serve a great purpose in that they flower when a lot of the other flowers haven't yet got started. So they flower in that gap between spring and summer, sometime between mid-May, mid-June, when there's very little else to pick. And so biennials fit that purpose. They fit that gap. Or you may assume that biennials are somehow complicated. But they're not really. It just means you take a little bit more forward planning. In the way that I've just done a video about autumn planting or autumn sowing for your hardy annuals, which I'll link up here, biennials are similar. You have to think about them a bit, so they will not flower in the same season that you sow them. So generally, you sow them in June, and they flower again the following June. So it takes them a year to get going. But once they've got going, they flower profusely, and some of them for a very long time. And they certainly give you something to sell at that point in time when when everything else is a little bit more dicey. I.e. the roses may not have started, the peonies may not have started. Who knows? But it'll give you something colourful to enjoy at that time of year. So when I first started, I was obviously growing the flowers because I enjoyed how they look fresh. I wanted to make bouquets and I wanted to fill the house with flowers. But what I found, the easiest way for me to make money, living in a rural community where there's not really much traffic, is that drying them allows me to elongate my season and be selling in the months where actually I haven't got that much to do in the garden, so it gives me time to be able to do something creative with the flowers that I've produced in the growing months. And biennials are one of those that, whilst perhaps not that spectacular during the growing season, although I beg to differ with some of them, but it's when they dry that they suddenly become profitable. Take foxgloves, for example. They are a fantastic choice for a biennial flower, especially if you choose a popular colourway. They're relatively easy to grow. You can get lots of seeds from one plant. So a packet of seeds, you can plant You can grow more foxgloves than you know what to do with. The seeds are absolutely tiny, yet the flowers are enormous. And they are in high demand from florists because they are spectacular. We are talking long spike flowers. What else in June produces that are easy and long lasting in a bouquet? And once you have them sown, actually, they pretty much do their job for you. They will self-sow with abundance, so you potentially never need to sow them again, although you probably find that they become more of a weed than a plant that you want, but they will self-sow. The downside of that is that if you've got lots of varieties of foxgloves, then they are a little bit promiscuous and they cross-pollinate enormously. So if you've got a selection of white, purple and the lovely apricot ones, then who knows what flower colour you might end up with if they are in close proximity together. But if you have only one variety, then you will get more and more of that same variety over and over again, year after year, with pretty much minimal effort on your part. Also in the biennial camp, you have campanula, which have fantastic bells, bell-shaped flowers, small or large flowers, and again they're popular by florists, and they're such a coveted plant or coveted stem in the florist season that you can make quite a lot of money from them. Wallflowers, I don't think they're necessarily so sought after by florists. They're really easy to grow, but they do fulfil a colourful gap in the garden borders. You can get wonderful varieties that look good in bouquets and fit in with everything else, don't get me wrong, but they're not as sought after as others, so don't not grow them, but they're not as profitable. Same with sweet rocket. Boy, the first year I grew sweet rocket, I didn't know what to do with it. There was so much of it. But they weren't really stunning flowers. They were in a... I'm not a big purple lover. I wasn't that keen, and they took over the bed. They took loads. But I had armfuls of the flower. And at that point in time, in my first year of flower growing, there wasn't much else in flower at that time. So I was very grateful for it. Whether they are sought after by florists, that bit I don't know. I'm not sure I have really seen sweet rocket in many big displays on Instagram and things like that. They are a filler flower. They're certainly not a focal flower, so they won't bring in the big bucks. But they are easy to grow. They are prolific. So if you want to make bouquets in early June, then they can certainly pad out an arrangement for you to be able to get selling and create bunches with lots of colour. Honesty flowers are very similar to sweet rocket. They flower slightly earlier in the season and are not quite as prolific. And all of a sudden you've got all of this sweet rocket coming in, and so you kind of ignore the honesty. But I'll come back to that in a second. And poppies, I mean, who doesn't love a poppy? I don't find that they last well in a fresh bouquet, but the seed heads, fantastic. They're just a few examples of the biennials that I grow and are popular cut flowers. I found, as I say, selling fresh flowers was quite difficult for me. I couldn't, in the space that I haven't got enough to keep going, to produce a lot, to be consistent in what I can sell. But I have found that drying flowers, as I said before, gives me scope to sell them leisurely and more as a mail order business. Last year was my first season in selling dried flowers. And hands down, my most profitable stems were Honesty, the insignificant flower that I told you about that looks like sweet rocket. Its seed head is fantastic. I mean, these are a year old. These are last year's stock. A bit raggedy now, but these sell for quite a price on Etsy. I can tell you, I was surprised. Because I found them easy to grow last year, I was surprised at how much money you can make from them. This by far was my most profitable stem, closely followed by poppy seed heads. And I understand why. I mean, not necessarily that one, although it has a certain amount of wild charm about it, if a little bit kinked. But I can understand why that would be beautiful in a vase over winter. Same with that. I mean, Christmas with these, hello, they are fantastic. So yes, these two were my most profitable stems last year. And so it's imperative that I have these seeds, these plants planted out so that I can make some money this year. Actually, next year. What am I talking about? Biennials, so it'll be next year. So, even though at this time of year everything seems to be focused on the fantastic dahlias, actually it is worth bearing in mind the profitability of other plants that are not quite so flashy or are not quite as trendy, that you can still make a lot of money from if you're wanting your garden to pay for itself. And that's really what I'm doing. I mean, I love the flower garden, and if I can sell the results so that it pays for the seeds and the plants and pays for my passion to continue filling this, then that is great for me. Thanks for watching. I hope you have found some value in this video, and if you have, then don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to learn more about seasonal planting strategies that could make you money from your garden, then be sure to watch my next videos for more info. Until next time, happy gardening!